everyone. Welcome back to your program for the Gambia podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Seka. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Modu Thomas. Today we have another Gambian here today by the name of Dr. eMalick Njie. eMalick Njie is a Gambian currently staying in New York City. He's a neurobiologist by profession, specializing in the Alzheimer's disease, if I'm not wrong. But I'll just let him do the introduction himself, and he will tell us more about himself. Welcome to the program, Mr. Dr. Njie.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to talk to you and to talk to people back home, as well as the many Gambians here. Yes, I'm a neurobiologist, neuroscientist. Means the same thing. Also a geneticist, neurogeneticist, and I do a lot of computer science work too, and put them all together as far as what I do day to day.
Oh, great. We'll just go ahead and start like we always do with everybody. Tell us a little bit about your background, your childhood, education, your time in Gambia also. So if you can just give us a brief rundown of who you are for the folks out there to know you.
Okay. So I was born in Banjul at the hospital there, the big hospital, in 1980. To wonderful parents and an amazing family. I went to kindergarten, preschool and kindergarten. I think at kindergarten is when I started at Mrs Ndow. And my sister also, she went there. And we stayed on until I was in primary 5, going on to primary 6. And that's when we moved to the States. So I was about 10 years old at the time. At that time, I was already into science in a very big way, even before we left. Like, my inspiration for what I'm doing now comes from that early time. One of the stories I like to tell my friends a lot is that Gambia was like an amazing experience. Lots of friends of mine here talk about white picket fences and all these other representations of what childhood is like in America, and nothing that they say could be the experience that I had as a kid. Mm-hmm. So I describe all the trees that were in my backyard in Kanifing, and how there was a mango tree, and next to it was a papaya tree, mm-hmm. and then several banana trees and lime trees. And from my window, I could see all the different birds and different types of animals that have these rituals of going to these trees and, just eating food or resting. And I always wondered what is the interaction between all these animals and the environment. So about 7, 8 years old, I was already asking questions like that, and my mother was always encouraging and just ask, how many questions do you have? I'm here all day long, so just ask away. So I did. And asking questions about why is it that the blue birds always go to the papaya tree and the red birds always go to the mango tree? Mm-hmm. That actually is a biological question that I found to be very interesting and then useful, and pursued further when I came to the United States.
So is your mom also in the medical field?
No, she's my mom worked for VSO. I'm not sure if you remember VSO, mm-hmm. Volunteer Services Organization. So it's like the equivalent of the Peace Corps, but the British version of it. Yeah. So she helped different volunteers get acclimated in the Gambia to help build different things like schools. She'll go back to the backcountry and help with just building infrastructure. So that's what she did back home. And I was lucky enough to travel on all the trips with her. She would go to different other countries and come back with chocolates for us, but nothing to do with science. And when she came over here to the U.S., she became an accountant, right, to help the family stand strong. So
that's good to know, because these are some of the things that I think it's needed with parents. You have a parent who encourage you by seeing the love that you have by asking these questions. So, and 9 out of 10 sometimes as kids growing up, when you want to specialize in one thing, your parents will tell you, no, we want you to be this. But at least you from the beginning, you have a mother who was at least encouraging you to ask those questions. With your curiosity, and now you're a CEO and a co-founder of this genetic intelligence, why did you take this route in the medical field, which, you know, it takes years to graduate compared to other courses that most of us are known to do in 2, 3, 4 years and we're done. But the medical field is like a never-ending journey. It's like a lifetime. You can read and read and read. You already have your PhD in neurobiology, and I'm proud to call you a Gambian. And when I see people achieving such, especially at a young age, I mean, the sky is the limit for us. The future looks bright for Gambians. So tell us, what is the motivation behind this, and how hard was your journey to get to where you are?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It has been a long journey, but to me, it hasn't felt that long. When I look at it, the numbers, the dates of graduation, it's like, oh, that was a long time ago, but it doesn't feel like that to me. And I think a lot of it was because I've been blessed to be around, a continuous group of very amazing people that have been encouraging me, that know how to have fun, to balance well, my phone is pinging a little bit. Yeah, how to balance academic life as well as social life, right? And that combined with my internal motivation to learn and discover has made this a wonderful, wonderful journey. So I was talking to Pa the other day, and I told him a little bit about why I focus on Alzheimer's. When I came into undergrad, so I was age 17, this was in Boston, and biology was what I was looking at as what I'm going to do. And then I learned about this field called neuroscience, which I've never heard about. And the teachers that were telling me about it were like, yeah, it's very new. Not many people know about it, but it's very hard. Right? I'm like, how hard? They're like, it's apparently the hardest thing you could do. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind then. But then they kept on telling me about, well, with biology, you have to study lots of things you're not interested in. And maybe you find something that's interesting. But in neuroscience, you're always wondering about your brain, like how your mind works, right? How you learn, like how do you love, right? How do you think? Like these things are common to everyone, so you could never get bored with it. You could always have a conversation with someone about it. Right? You could always find something to talk about and something to increase your curiosity as you learn more and more about it. So I just forgot about how hard it was, and I just dove in. Where I started learning, and since day one, since age 17, it's remained exciting. And the more and more I learned about Alzheimer's, like deep questions such as like how do you forget everything that's meaningful to you, right? How are all the days that you've had in the past with people that are important to you, such as your children? How is it that those moments could get wiped away like a hard drive being erased? How is it that the moment that we are talking right now, one day could just disappear while you're still alive? It could just disappear. So there are lots of ideas, and there's a huge space of people that have been working on this for a long time, and they're very interesting people, right? And they come from all over the world. So once I tapped into that, it was very easy to stay motivated, to learn from them, to contribute as much as I could, and get to travel. A lot of times you get to travel to different places that if I had taken a different, course in a different field that was shorter, I wouldn't have gotten to travel to, right? So all these amazing journeys that you get as a part of the experience of learning.
Oh, that's great. It's very interesting to hear you say all these steps that you've been through and trying to get to where you are today. But just like you said, you mentioned Alzheimer's disease. I think we're going to be talking more about that, being that is your specialty right now. Most of your research is on Alzheimer's disease. As you know, back home, most of them don't know what it is. It has a very bad stereotype out there. Very bad stigma. Yeah, exactly. Most of our elderly are going through it, and they just become isolated,
Yeah.
So I think it's good that we have you here so that you can like kind of tell us a little bit about this disease and what are some of the signs and symptoms that we should be looking for in terms of this disease. If you can just give us a brief rundown of what it is so that the folks back home will know what it is and how it starts and some of these stages that they go through.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I remember my Wolof isn't as good now, but I still remember a few things. Like when we go to school, we'll pass about 3 or 4 people that were out in the streets and they were considered crazy, and we'll say "Dangadoff." And, that's all we'll say, and completely ignore their existence. These people needed help, right? And I don't know what the disease they have, but in neuroscience, there's a group of diseases that any of them could have fallen under. So there's Alzheimer's, there's Parkinson's, there's multiple sclerosis, which is more of a weakness, but schizophrenia, right? So a lot of them may have had schizophrenia. And these are all diseases that they're not curable, but they could be treated very well, right? And in the end, you have to remember the person in front of you that you can't relate to because they're acting crazy is still a human being, right? So understanding what they're going through and the disease process that they're going through is the first step to bringing them help. And that's something as Gambians that we could work on, because I think there's a lot of people out there that are undergoing difficulty that we could help in the medical system. As far as recognizing Alzheimer's, so there's two main groups of Alzheimer's patients. Those who get it very early, so those that get it maybe as early as 35, maybe even 32 years old, right? All the way to those who get it much later, when they are in their 60s and 70s, right? So the statistics on Alzheimer's are, if you make it to, I believe, age 80, 3 in 4 people will have Alzheimer's. Right? So a large percentage of the population will get a disease. So Gambians are living longer and longer every day, thanks to a lot of economic growth and an improved medical system. So Alzheimer's surprised America. America got to live longer earlier. We don't want it to surprise Gambia when that day comes when most of us are living to 95 years old or 100 years old, right? So one of the first things that occurs, and this is a fact that most people don't know, is your sense of smell starts to deteriorate, right? So your capacity to smell. And this is not true for all patients, but for many it is. And then that's followed up by the more obvious symptoms, including memory loss, right? So it's progressive. It's called a neurodegeneration because your brain slowly degenerates down, right? And as the brain shrinks, your capacity to withhold new memories is incapacitated. Oftentimes, Alzheimer's patients will be able to retain long memories, so they'll remember their childhood very well, for instance, right? But things that happened to them recently, they have a hard time remembering. And I have several older relatives that always, whenever they forget something small, they're like, "Hey, am I getting Alzheimer's?" I'm like, no, you're pretty okay. The deterioration that occurs in Alzheimer's patients is much, much more severe. I'll give you an example of when I was in graduate school. I was on an airplane to a meeting, and the flight attendant started talking to me, and she told me about her grandma who has Alzheimer's. She said, so her grandma would become irritated that she can't remember the basic things that she needs to kind of get on with her life, right? So when the family's over, she would become very angry and a very angry person, right? And what the family would do is open the front door because they know she'll want to leave, right? And the mother she would walk out the front door and she'll forget that she was mad, right? And she'll walk back around the house to the back door, right, and come back in and sit at a table like nothing ever happened. Right?
Wow, that's amazing.
That's how intense the memory loss could be, right? And it also sheds light on a second symptom of Alzheimer's that most people don't talk about, is that when you have difficulty remembering the basic things that you need to get on with your day, where the sink is, what's the name of your son or your husband, right? You sometimes have an emotional, because you're aware that you are not, being able to communicate in normal fluid way that you do normally. So lots of people have emotional difficulty, which turn into anger and different sorts of emotions that are negative. And people that take care of Alzheimer's patients have to deal with this and have to understand. Many times they don't understand that it's a disease causing. That's the root cause of the emotional difficulty, right?
So does it all fall under? I've heard this called dementia. Does it fall under that category too?
Yes. So the dementia means a separation of the mind,
Okay.
right? And Alzheimer's is under the group of diseases that are called dementia diseases.
Now, if you have to break it down to a layman, somebody who has never heard of the term that you had a PhD on, it's neurobiology. What is it? What is neurobiology, if you have to break it down to a layman?
So I guess the easiest way to say is neurobiology is study of how brain inside of your head, how it's organized and works to allow you to do the things that you consider normal, like being able to lift your hand, control your voice, process images coming into the world, coming into your eyes. All the information goes to the back of your brain, and neurobiologists look at the brain and see how that information is processed and what happens when you can't process it, right? So that's diseases, the disease half of neurobiology.
Folks, we're talking to Dr. eMalick Njie today. He's a Gambian neurobiologist. We're going to be talking about a lot of things in the science field. But Mr. Njie, what I just want you to touch on is what you're doing now. You are the co-founder and the CTO of Genetic Intelligence. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what is it that you guys do?
Yeah, definitely. Genetic Intelligence is a young startup. We are a tech startup, but our focus is on genes. So there's with my training from studying Alzheimer's, and then maybe we could talk about this later, but studying gene discovery at Columbia, I thought that I had a particular capacity to help in parts of medicine that have previously been intractable. So, for instance, there is no cure for Alzheimer's, and to get to a cure for Alzheimer's, you need to find the genes that cause Alzheimer's. Once you find those genes, and you could change them, we have lots of tools to do that, and that's the sort of a new medicine, the new antibiotic, right? But if you don't know what the gene is, you could never get to that next step, right? So when I was wrapping up at Columbia, I got into discussions with some very good friends of mine that I trusted a lot and I knew were very smart, including Bertrand Adav. He's from Benin. He was 2 buildings away from me at Columbia in the chemistry building. But he's one of those people that knows a lot about different parts of biology, even though he did chemistry, as well as he had a very strong business instinct. So we talked about this idea for in depth for a few months, and he slowly came to realize what I was talking about, how the big companies that provide medicines. So when you go to your doctor, your physician, they give you a prescription, right? You go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist gives you the drug. Now, that drug is made by these large companies, Pfizer, GlaxoSmithKline, Genentech, Roche. And those companies have invested billions of dollars discovering new drugs, right? And they also lose billions of dollars trying to find new drugs. As a matter of fact, when I was much younger, I interned for a company called Millennium Pharmaceuticals in Boston. And my job was to do drug discovery, right? Find new drugs that you could then give to patients. But most of our efforts were failed. And that leads to two things, right? So one, the companies lose lots of money. So in one field that genetic intelligence is working on right now, it's called age-related macular degeneration, and they've had about 17 clinical trials in the last 5 years. Every single one of them failed to develop a new drug that a patient could take, right? So each of these clinical trials costs tens of millions of dollars. If you add them up, you go into the billions. So the companies lose out of money, and then the patients also lose out because there's nothing to help us, right? And any one of us could be the patient. You just don't know, right? Including like us three here or anyone listening to this. So the net result of poor gene discovery or poor drug discovery is patients that are not helped, right? So we figured we could come into the space, apply some techniques that we've learned, that in particular that I did during my postdoc and in graduate school, and apply that to people. So bring it out of the lab, translate it so that we could help discover genes, and those genes could then lead to new drugs that could then help people.
One of the works that you've been involved in, which was a research done that I'm looking at right now, called a preclinical assessment of neural stem cells as delivery vehicles for anti-amyloid therapeutics. What can you tell us about the study? What was it about, and what conclusion did you guys came to with the study?
Okay. That was my second half of my dissertation when I was in graduate school, and it was an early attempt at helping Alzheimer's patients. Right. My uncle has dementia, so this has a little bit of a personal thing for me. But the big idea was we have stem cells that were they were sort of the new pulse of the field. People realized that you could grow cells that are very juvenile in state and have them develop into different types of cells that you could use to help, let's say, make new brain cells. Like if you have Alzheimer's, you're losing brain cells. You could use these cells to replace the old ones, right? Or you could even go much stronger and instead of taking a drug, right, through it, like you swallow it and then it goes to your body, you could have the stem cells do that work for you. And this was particularly important to any work being done in the brain because most drugs can't get into the brain, right? There's this thing called the blood-brain barrier. Most drugs will circulate throughout your entire body, but the brain is special. It doesn't allow them to come in, right? So one way you could get around that is by injecting something into your brain that makes a drug for you, right? So what we did in that work, I led the team, but I was helped by a very amazing group of people from the Bush Lab of Florida. Was we genetically I learned how to grow stem cells outside in a culture dish, and then I genetically changed them to express a protein that we knew gets rid of the another protein that causes that is thought to cause Alzheimer's, right? So now we have these cells, these stem cells, making the drug for you, so to speak, right? In the culture dish. So then what I then did was inject those into the brains of animals that have Alzheimer's-like symptoms. They're models of Alzheimer's. And with the hopes that the drug that we put into the genes of the cells will now be produced inside the brain and get rid of the bad protein, and then the animals will become healthier, right? So we had mixed results in it. So several stages were very promising and some things that could be worked on. So for instance, we were able to, of course, grow the cells. That was very difficult to do, but we were able to do it successfully. And then we were able to genetically modify them to produce the protein that would act as a drug, right? And what was very exciting was we injected them into the animals, and the cells survived for more than a year. And it was, when I first looked at it, I was amazed because there was a strong chance that they wouldn't survive, right? The brain would reject them. What we didn't see was the proteins that It's a protein called amyloid beta that is thought to cause brain cells to die, which then leads to Alzheimer's. We didn't see that the introducing the cells, the stem cells, reducing the amyloid beta, right? So that was disappointing. But we then asked, why was it that wasn't the case? Because we knew the cells were producing the protein that could get rid of amyloid beta. And it turns out that when they produce it, the protein stays only in a very local, it stays next to what you injected in, basically. It doesn't travel out into the brain, right? You want it to spread out as far as possible to diffuse, send as much of it as possible to many different places, and then wherever the amyloid beta protein is, it would be met with the protein that could act to get rid of it. And so we finished that paper by suggesting that some future work could be finding new drugs or new ways to have the drug protein become attracted to the amyloid protein, right? So we call it chemoattraction. And that's just one of several ways you could tackle the problem, right? So I guess in short, it was a mixed success. It took us forward, and there's more to go with that.
You did spoke at length about what we look for, the signs of somebody who's having Alzheimer's. Since this has no cure yet, is this something that can be avoided, or it's one of those diseases that when it hits you, it is there? You just have to deal with it, or there are certain things that can trigger that for you to have Alzheimer's, or what are some of the things that you can do to avoid it?
Yeah, that's excellent question. With individuals that get Alzheimer's early, so remember how I said some people get it as early as 32, 35 years old, for the most part, they have a very strong genetic component. The way I look at it, genetic intelligence looks at it, is individuals like that, they're born with an infectious agent, right, called a bad gene. They just don't know it, right? So no matter what they do, sometime it's going to show itself, right? And the same thing with other diseases such as breast cancer that affect people very early. You're born with the infectious agent called a bad gene, and it's just a matter of time until it shows itself. Now, for other people that get it much later, so Alzheimer's patients that get it once they retire, in the 70s, there is some thought that environment could play a role in facilitating or hindering the disease from coming. So there's been, what I say to my family and to my friends is, no drugs out there really treat Alzheimer's. Like this, there's some in the market. There's a multi-billion-dollar drugs, each of them, but they don't help Alzheimer's patients, right? It's like a little bit of snake oil, right? But two things have been shown to help: exercise, as well as keep your mind very active, right? So the exercise one is, if you maintain like a good exercise schedule most of your life, no matter the same environment that if you are in the same environment as somebody else will, they have a higher chance of getting Alzheimer's than you, right? Similarly, keeping your mind active. So lots of older folks sort of, they're done with life. They just stay home and watch TV, right? And they no longer are actively participating in the world, right? And that puts you at risk for Alzheimer's, right? And even going further back, when you're younger, your level of education that you achieve is actually correlated to how likely you are to get Alzheimer's. So the more you achieve, the less likely you are. And the thought behind that is this theory called cognitive reserve, i.e., if you keep building your brain up through being engaging, it doesn't have to be education. It could be, like I say, you're a musician and you travel because you're doing music, you meet different kinds of people, or you have another profession that keeps you engaged, right, where you're not secluded. When those experiences build a more resilient brain, right, in your youth and in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s. Now, when you go to when you get to your 70s and you get an Alzheimer's and you're losing brain cells, right? Well, you built up like a very strong system, so you could afford to lose a few, right, and still be fine, right? So keeping a very active mind and exercising, those two are the things that you can do, and they're absolutely free, right? You don't have to buy them; they're not drugs.
Definitely. You say you educating me today, because science is something that since from high school, primary school, all the way to college, I've never liked science, but I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot today from you. But you mentioned something, and I have a follow up question before that. Can stress also contribute to Alzheimer's and dementia?
It may. I tend to think of stress as impacting other other dementias. So for instance, schizophrenia, right? Where people are going, the world, how they see the world is very different from what the world is. Mm-hmm. So in the people with schizophrenia, when they're under stress, when they're put under pressure, they're more likely to break, so to speak, right? Also, there's or give in. So actually breaking is not the right word. It's give in to how they're seeing the world. So if you're getting hallucinations and you're getting delusions, you see things that you see are not there. You're hearing things that are not there. Right? For a while, you would fight it. Right? You would say that's not right. That's not correct. That's not correct. Mm-hmm. But when you're under severe stress, and this could come in many ways, including like losing a family member or losing a job, things like that, right? You become more isolated in your mind, and it is thought that that's when people just give in to those thoughts, and that's a dangerous place to be.
Okay. My follow-up question is this. I'm not going to give them promotion. I work for a company that deals with narcotics, and we deliver these narcotics to these homes. And 9 out of 10, the narcotics are specifically for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. In your point of view, personally or in your medical experience, does these narcotics help or damage the process of finding a solution or finally getting help with finding a medicine that can cure Alzheimer's and dementia? Does it help or hurt?
Yeah, so that's a layered question that I could get myself into big time trouble for.
I don't want you to be in trouble. I want you to educate the masses.
No. Yeah, it's okay. And I've made a career out of being very honest. Okay. So there are about, I think, 4 or 5 Alzheimer's drugs out there. As a matter of fact, a very good friend of mine worked for the inventor of one of the big ones, right? The top 2. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And the theories that these drugs are all founded on are mainly under challenge right now. They've been under challenge for quite a while, and at multiple levels. And also, when you look at patients, none of those drugs ever bring you back to your old self, right? So typically these companies and physicians will say it slows down Alzheimer's or it reduces how troublesome it is, and things like that, right? And like imagine if you had polio or somebody's like, I'm going to slow down your polio.
Right.
You're going to be like, no, I want you to get rid of my polio, please. Right. So I believe the bar of quality or therapeutic that these drugs offer could be increased to match other types of medicine that do actually help people. And what's difficult in the research world is that there's lots of very strong interest behind these drugs because they bring in billions of dollars, right? And that, in a sense, makes new ways of thinking difficult because, well, this is the accepted truth. Patients are buying it because they have nothing better. So people coming in with new ideas have a more difficult time stepping into the game space and actually being effective and getting the support needed to lead to the next generation of medicines.
So, Dr. Njie, one thing that I just wanted you to touch on I'm not sure if this is in your field of research, but in terms of Alzheimer's, how does it? Is there any correlation between some like those of us who speak two languages compared to somebody who just understands one language with Alzheimer's? Is there any correlation with that?
Hmm. I mean, not that I'm aware of. Like, I guess I'm wondering if, like, when you learn to speak two languages or more than one language, you generally are using more of your mind, right? The thing we talked about earlier with the cognitive reserve idea. So there may be a chance that learning more than one language is protective against Alzheimer's, but I have to be honest and say I don't know too much like scientific work that's been done doing. There may be stuff out there, like maybe I could look into it and get back to you.
So, with everything that you're doing now, I mean, of course, we're all Gambians here, and I've heard you and I've seen some of your work. You reference Gambia a lot, which just shows how proud you are of being a Gambian. Now, with everything that you're doing now, is there anything for Gambia in this? Do you have like any ongoing projects or anything in the future that will be done in the Gambia?
Yeah, we'll see, right? So I was in the Gambia in 2010, right when I finished up school, and I went and gave several lectures at the University of Gambia on Alzheimer's. I got to meet, Dr. Carr, who was running University of Gambia at the time, and he also went to the medical campus in Banjul and gave a talk there to the physicians. So it was a very blessed experience, and I would love to do that more. In the future, as genetic intelligence is very young, right? We are about 6 months old now, but the two co-founders are both from West Africa, and Bertrand is from Benin. I'm from the Gambia, and we would both love to be able to contribute in a significant way towards the development of the place that gave us so much. Mm-hmm. So we always have our eye, and going back for good food, to meet family, as well as bring a special set of skills that we have developed to where we are from. To train, to help the next generation to have our parts of where we are from not just keep up with other people, other countries, but lead other countries.
Now, hearing and learning a lot from you about this disease, and you even alluded to that fact that normally when we see certain behaviors back home, the common word we use is kidafadof. And it happens sometimes we even society contribute to making that individual situation get even worse by treating them as if they're not even part of us, putting them in a very isolated position, and that stigma, just like with AIDS and anything that is out there. What would be your advice to especially our parents and the society back home? How can we help in minimizing those stigma that are attached with those kind of behaviors? You see somebody just because when you say something funny or not funny, they just bust out laughing, and you want to just isolate them and think they off. And you spoke about hallucinating. We were young. I've seen friends where the first day they try to smoke they just go crazy. For like 5 minutes, they're talking about something totally out of the ordinary. And with even malaria, we call it chronic malaria. When people have it back home, people will be like, oh, dafadoff, because they'll be saying stuff that they're seeing stuff, and people will even go to the extent of involving even the local medicine to say, oh, let's take him or her to this place to pray for this person. So how can we help in minimizing and educating the masses back there? And I think you can contribute a lot by doing that, especially with your foundation. So what would be your advice to the people back home when it comes to those kind of issues?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like every person, the person in front of you that you are having difficulty with, or you don't understand, you can't relate to, is also a human being just like you. And it's with most of those individuals, are patients that don't have a hospital room. That's it, right? And it's up to society, and society is made out of individuals to step up, right? And to just as you would like help when you need it, they would like help, even though they can't say it to you, right? And like schizophrenia affects, usually when people get it, they're very, very young. So I believe with most schizophrenic patients, their first symptoms happen when they're teenagers, right? So that's a whole long life after that, right? To deal with a lot of pain and inability to comprehend the world, to understand the world, to accomplish your dreams, right? To be able to just do as you want to because your brain is different from other people, right? And that's made even that's personal, right? And it's made even worse by how people around you treat you, right? It's when your school friends are not nice to you, or you grow up as an adult and people throw things at you. I've seen this with my own eyes, right? It's already the mental anguish that you're going through is made even worse, right? And remember the thing I said, the most dangerous places, like when somebody that's is sick but not completely, like there's a chance they could recover, but after so much stress, they just give in, right? And that stress many times is coming not from them, it's coming from people that are supposed to be friends and caretakers, right? And society in general. So I think in the Gambia, we are known worldwide as amongst the most friendly people. It's something I'm very proud of. I think that one thing that we can do to make that even more solid is by having a bigger showing a bigger capacity, regarding the humanity of people that have these different mental diseases.
Okay. On a lighter note, before we end this, what do you miss most about Gambia? What do you miss most back home?
Oh man, so much. So my family over there on both sides are amazing individuals. I miss my cousins, talking junk about basketball with them. So Pa went to school with Sagar, and Modipe her sister is a big Lakers fan, and me and her could go on forever, because I don't like the Lakers.
Oh man, then I'm about to end this interview because I'm about to end this. That's my team.
Come on, I'm from Boston. I'm a big Shaq fan, so when he was there, I was okay.
Okay.
Being able to just spend time with family like that, and that's Modipe is on my dad's side, and on my mother's side, lots of the cousins are here in the U.S., so I get to see them, but there's also a lot that I don't get to see because they're back home. So just seeing, blessed to come from a very big family, and Gorin Jais and the Sinyans, and I miss them both.
Is it Banjul or Serakunda? Are you from Banjul or Serakunda?
Serakunda.
Okay. What part of Serakunda?
Yeah. Sorry?
What part?
Oh, so, off Serakunda. So I think I was in Kanifing. I think that Kanifing has split into two parts, like Kanifing North or something like that.
They have Kanifing Estate in here.
Yeah. So I was right by the road coming from Banjul. Both my parents come from Banjul. So.
Okay. Now, on a typical day, if you're not working, doing nothing, what is your day like? How do you spend your day?
So, New York is a wonderful thing because it's really easy to go find something to do. So I'm a big fan of music. So any chance I get a free moment, I go find music. So jazz is something that I really enjoy. And I've had friends of mine that I also find to have a very similar interest. So we go to jazz at Lincoln Center very often. Also a big fan of electronic music, right? And New York is one of the meccas in the world for that, right? So whenever I get a chance to, I'll go see a DJ that's live. And there's hip hop. I live in Harlem, right? I literally have to just walk outside and it's a good spot, right? So music is something that has always carried me through. As far as in science and everything else. So the more of it that I get, the happier I am. And one of the wonderful blessings about following music is now in jazz, in hip hop, as well as in electronic music. You will find like lyrics from Gambia, Senegal, Mali, right? They incorporating our music into these other musics, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a wonderful thing to tell people that I'm around, like, hey, that's a quarter. That's music from us, from my place, and describe a little bit about why are they singing in this particular way, and what are the emotions behind that? What is the history behind it?
That's awesome. Before my co-host comes in, I just want to end by saying I wish you nothing but the best, my brother, and I'm proud to call you a Gambian. You're doing something that is wonderful, and we need more people like you, and I'm sure you will be a big contributing factor to the success and the future of the Gambia. And we wish you well and your family, and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Mr. Njie, before we wrap up this program, I just want to talk about something here that I'm very passionate about, which is science, technology, and engineering and math, which are the STEM programs. As you know, it's something that we are definitely lacking back home. I'm pretty sure down the road, just like we talked about, the reason why we do this program is not for fame, it's not for money, but just to educate. Down the road, I'm pretty sure kids coming up will have the chance to listen to this. What is your message to some of these kids out there who are interested in science today in terms of branching into some of these science fields?
Yeah. So I would say science is about being able to find information, right? So whether you're a physicist, whether you are a neuroscientist, or you are interested in some new field of science that hasn't been invented yet, it doesn't matter, right? It's about finding information. When we were growing up, right, finding information was very difficult. You had to go to a library. And that library, if it was a good library, maybe it had 100,000 books, right? And even in your lifetime, you can't read them all, right? But now that library has billions of books, and you don't need to read each of them. You could just go to the right part of the book by typing in the right information onto Google, right? And that's available to me. I use it every day in my work. In Gambia, I have friends there that have opened up internet cafes, and they're becoming cheaper every day, but the internet is there. So if you want to be a scientist, you're no longer limited by the schools that you have. You're not limited by the books that are available to you. Like, you're limited by whether or not you could get, a few coins and go into the internet cafe and learning about something, right? And that could be in Thailand, that could be in Namibia, that could be in Brussels, could be in New York, and it could also be in Banjul, in the Gambia, right? To build this company, I realized that we needed strong computer science to do the things that we wanted to do, right? And I was in the biology program at Columbia, not the computer science program, right? So I never took an official course in computer science. I went on the internet and taught myself that, right? I could do that from the beach in Senegambia, right? I could do that anywhere because the information is available to me. So with some perseverance and interest, I think any young Gambian kid could learn the very best things. And of course, there's people like me that could help you out, guide you to give you shortcuts. But you're no longer limited by your primary school teacher being very mean, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could just go find it out yourself.
That's right. We cannot end this program without talking about some of your videos out there on Vimeo. I will encourage everybody to take a look at it. Just go to Google and type eMalick Njie and Vimeo, Vimeo. So first of all, I'm going to start with, just on a serious note, on the travel that you did at Lindau in Germany, and you gave a speech over there. I mean, those in the science field know what this is. Great scientific thinkers like Albert Einstein and so many of these science Nobel laureates have been have graced this occasion before. What can you tell us about that experience?
That was a wonderful experience. It was a few years ago. I was blessed to be nominated to go to that meeting, and it was about 15 Nobel laureates and about 1,000 young researchers from all around the world. So they try to represent as many countries as possible. So, of course, you would meet so many interesting people that were very curious about what they're doing and doing it very well. And most of them were chemists. So it was good for me to step outside my world and see how they think. And also, the Germany was like a great. So the meeting took place in Lindau, Germany, and the hosts were great. Every single day was sponsored by a different country. So one day was South Korea. So from the morning all the way to the evening, you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with South Korean sort of South Korean curated food. And the next day will be a different country. So Germany was very gracious enough to allow all these different countries to come in and give their take and give their experiences to you. And of course, at the very end, it was Germany's turn. So, they gave us a taste of Northern German food and culture, as well as Southern German food and culture, which are very different. Lots of arguments about which one is better. I got to listen to. But it was great, just at such a high level that we could go and talk about science as well as culture and learn from each other. Right, like the world is moving fast, and it's really wonderful to have opportunities like that when things just slow down a little bit, and we could get to talk to a person from Bangladesh and another person from New Zealand, somebody from the Gambia, somebody from Brazil, all in the same dinner table together with a friend from Tallahassee, Florida, right? Things like that are pretty rare, and I really appreciated that experience.
Okay, still on that same website, and this is coming. So the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Who was that lady who put that ice on you, man? What was that all about?
Oh man, that was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So the lady who stole the show, her name was Charlotte Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
She's a friend of mine. She also went to Colombia, but I actually didn't meet her through Colombia. We were at this festival out in this desert, and I was having a difficult time finding tickets, right? And at the same time, so I had a lot of time, and during that time, a friend of mine, challenged me to an ice bucket challenge. And this was that period where Bill Gates and many people were making these ice bucket challenges. So I'm very competitive. So basically, it's like, Charlotte, we just met, but I want to do an ice bucket challenge, and I want it to be the best one that no one could ever beat. So we sat together and drew up a story, and it came out way better than I could have ever expected.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good. I mean, just your reaction after that was just priceless. So
yeah, that was genuine. That ice was cold.
I'm sure it was. I can tell. So just to finish up here, I just want to just go ahead and throw out some few trivia questions to you, just to pick on your brain here. Now, what does being a Gambian mean to you?
It means that I'm always the friendliest person in the room. I walk in there knowing that. So it's just being genuinely friendly. That's something that I take very importantly, and I think I got that from being raised at home.
Oh, definitely. Another one here, just to finish up. What is the most influential book that you've read that stands out?
That's a good one. It makes me think. So there was a book that I read a few years ago that is called Ishmael, by Daniel Quinn, I believe. It forces you to really think outside your mind. And it's something that I read when I was in graduate school, and it still lingers in my mind many, many years later.
If you were to have the power to change something in Gambia today, I know you haven't been there in a while, but what would it be?
Well, before it would be some new leadership, but now we have that. I think that what I would change the most, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this one, but I'll just go for it. I would like for Gambians to be more stand on their feet as the first thing that comes to them, rather than ask for help as the thing that comes to them. And I say this with a deep history of, I said earlier, my mom worked for the NGO's VSO, which as an organization and many others like it are there to come help Gambia. And I really think that's an important mission, but I think that should always be the second or third thing that we go for. I think that we should be able to stand on our own feet, even sometimes if you're wrong, but just get the culture of, I'm going to see what I could do first before I be more self-reliant, right? And help is always there, and help is even better when you've already tried a little bit. I think Gambia, and sometimes like free money is not good money, and I think that's a lesson that we need to keep thinking about.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. I share the same thing too. I think that in order for us to get to where we need to be, we have to try to be less dependent on all of these aids that are out there today. So hopefully the folks will not be mad at you for saying that. So
I'm a big guy. I can handle it.
Okay, well, that's good. So anybody who has a problem with that, you can go to New York, and I'm pretty sure he'll be able to find you. So, we're just going to wrap up now. Is there any last word out there? Last word that you want to throw to the guys out there?
Yeah. Just first, I want to thank you guys. And to my cousin Gigi and her significant other, Coach, who is your cousin.
Yes.
So I really missed them. So I wanted to give them shout outs. And I'm sure I'll be seeing them soon. And to Gambia, I'm hoping to come in Christmas. It's an exciting time for the country. I'm living under the Trump America right now, so there's many times you say, oh my God, Gambia is doing so much better than America right now, and that's real.
Yeah.
And all the Mrs Ndow graduates.
Yeah, definitely.
Good the host himself.
Yeah, we have a bunch out there. Now, talking about missing Coach, I mean, Coach is not somebody that is hard to get. All you got to do is just have good food at your house, and he will definitely be there. So,
I'm going to tell him you said that.
Yeah. Just have good food in your house, and Coach will come and see you. I can tell you that.
Okay, that's good to know. Definitely. I'll get him to come to New York soon then.
All right, Dr. Njie, I guess that will do it for this episode. We really, really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. And hopefully the folks out there have learned a lot about the work that you do. And the kids who are listening to this also, hopefully they'll be inspired and motivated to branch into some of these science fields out there. I mean, because I personally believe that, for us to move forward, or for any country to move forward nowadays in this age that we're living in, I mean, there has to be a tremendous amount of focus in these science fields. Just like I was saying, the STEM programs, the science, technology, engineering, and math. And you are definitely an example of that for us. And we're definitely proud of you for the work that you do. And we can't wait for everything that you're doing to be translated back home also in any kind of capacity. I'm pretty sure it will help. So we just want to take this time again and thank you very much for taking this time to talk to us.
Thank you, Pa. This was a wonderful experience. Hopefully we'll be talking soon later.
Sure, no problem. Thank you very much.